Should I begin?
Yeah, you're on.
All right, so today we're going to take a look at Ode to Joy. And this is comes from a very famous symphony by Beethoven that's been adapted many times over. We're just going to look at the most basic nugget of Ode to Joy, which is its main motive, its main theme. That's the basis for many more minutes of music. So on this page, it's going to look like the first two lines. So we're just limiting our discussion to these first two lines. It might not seem like a lot, but there's actually a whole lot that we can appreciate from it. So first thing we're going to look at is the right hand, which is in the treble clef, and this is the motive. This is the melody. I have Dr. Bull with me, even though you can't see him off screen. You can see his head. And just by way of review, Dr. Bull, what is a motive or a motif?
Oh, it is a very short musical expression, like a phrase in a language.
That's perfect. Beautiful.
See, I know my theory. It's my fingers that I don't control.
Well, you're a great partner to have because that was the most eloquent definition. It is a short expression in music, and like a phrase in language, motives can develop and build. Just like in English, you can take a phrase and make a sentence, make a paragraph, build paragraphs into an essay. Motives are the building blocks of music.
You've begged a question now. Play the phrase and then modify it on the fly.
Ah.
You just said the variations.
Mm-hmm.
Show us the phrase as Beethoven composed it, and then play it again as Melissa Murphy modified it.
Ah, as I modified. Well, Beethoven himself modified it.
Go on.
But I can give a modification myself. So Ode to Joy, the most basic motive is this. And I'm going to play it right now. It's going to be familiar to most people because it's such a part of our popular culture. So that's your motive right there. Some ways that you can modify your motive are you can change a few notes of it, and he actually does this in the next line. So you're going to hear it starts out the same way and then ends differently. So this is line 2. So far it's the same. So looking closely at line 2, it ends on D. You see that? And previously, at the end of line 1, he ended on E. So in this version here, it's in the key of D. So by ending the second line on D, it sounds more conclusive. So when you're looking at your motive, one question you want to ask is, how does it end? Does it end on the note, on the key note? So if you're in the key of D, your key note would be D. So does it end on the key note? Well, the first phrase, it doesn't. The second phrase does. And I'll play them both again so you can hear the difference. So first phrase. Didn't end on the key note. It means we're going to continue and keep going. Here comes the key note. Sounds more conclusive, and it gives a conclusion to the first half of this piece. So far, so good?
So far, very good.
Any questions so far?
I'd like to hear the left hand at the same time.
All right, so here it is with the left hand with some harmony added in. addition into the second half of the piece, which we're not talking about today. Just
I am thirsty for knowledge. I am thirsty for knowledge. Would you play the second half as well, please?
All right. Second half, you're going to hear a similarity to the opening motive, but we're starting on a different note and have a few different rhythms here. See these eighth notes here and these eighth notes here? These make it quite different from what we heard in the first half. If you look at the rhythm in the first half, it's very steady. Quarter notes all the way to the end, then a dotted dun, dun, dun. More quarter notes all the way to the end, then a dotted rhythm, dun, dun, dun. Here, starting in line 3, the rhythm has more action. There's more of these eighth notes thrown in there. It gives it a bigger sense of motion to have all those rhythmic changes. So rhythm is a big factor in how we hear motives as similar or different. The more you change the rhythm, the more the motive is altered. So here comes line 3. Those are the eighth notes. Dun, 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 dun. Back to the opening motive, line 4. And the right hand melody ends on the note D.
D.
Our key note for key of D ends on note D, giving it that successful conclusion, that resolution that you would expect at the end of a piece. Right here.
One question, if I may ask, why isn't there the key indicated at the here?
That's a great question.
You put in the accidentals as you go,
Mm-hmm.
but would it be just the same as if the key D signature giving a, what is it, a C and F? Would it? There's no C's there, are there? So
there's one C in the left hand right here,
and he's put it in.
Write the C sharp.
Yeah, so it could have been written with the D key signature instead of the accidentals as they occur. Maybe it was done that way to make it easier.
You just answered your own question.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so this is coming from an elementary book, and in order to make it easier for you to read, he just, whoever edited this version, wrote the sharps in every single time it occurs and is needed. This does make it easier for beginner students because they don't have to memorize which are the sharp notes.
One difficulty I had was changing fingering and getting that third finger in place just there.
How did you fix that? Because I saw today you did it perfectly.
Well, I practiced it because I always put number 2 there until you came, and I thought I'd better put number 3 there.
Oh, very good. And it's a huge number 3.
Yes.
So it's important to always make notes to yourself.
Now, were you playing it at performance tempo?
Just about.
What was it?
You could hear it in a brisk.
What was it, about 80 or a bit lower than that?
I would say that was higher than 80.
About 90 beats per minute.
Maybe 90 or 100.
90 or 100, or could put the metronome.
Let's find out. Okay.
Let's find out.
Here's 108.
Yeah, lower it.
I said like around 90 or 100, so. That was 90 right there.
And is that a steady march-like rhythm?
I would say so.
Well, have you any concluding tidbits for the student before we close this lesson?
Concluding tidbits. Well, so one thing that you would do well to look at is the left hand, because it does change position here in the end of the bar. It does change position in the end of the bar. That's something to look out for. And this left hand, it has a melody of its own. A, F sharp, change to thumb, A, D, A, F sharp, A, D. Continues on with A. But what I'm saying here is there's a bit of almost of a counterpoint or a little slight polyphony that in your left hand there's some movement in the notes here, which also is interesting and is worth really paying attention to, both to appreciate it and to practice it.
Could you just explain the difference between counterpoint and polyphony? I know what polyphony is, two melodies at the same time, but how does that differ from counterpoint?
That's a good question. So counterpoint is probably a more specific form of polyphony. So I use the term here loosely because this isn't really a strict counterpoint, but counterpoint is a style of music, a style of polyphony, or an approach to dealing with multiple voices. And that particular counterpoint approach has certain rules, certain principles behind it, which are not really relevant to Beethoven. They're more relevant to probably Bach and Baroque music.
Do you agree that we should go and do some practice now?
I do.
Okay. Well, thank you for the lesson. We'll go and do some practice.
All right. Signing off for now.